This week we're going to look at plan views. What you're going to need is one, well, you may need two, depends how this goes, a letter size 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. You're going to need a ruler. Anytime, let's see, on top of that we're going to be using our T-square, a set square. You'll need blue pencil and a lead pencil, and last but not least, well, of course an eraser, but last but not least is tape. I've got masking tape. Any tape will do, but I'll go through the process and see how all this will work out. So I'm going to start with taping down our piece of paper, because the whole point of using our set square is to get perfect horizontal lines from top to bottom on our page. So that'll only maintain horizontal if our paper is actually taped down onto the work surface. So I'm going to use our T-square, and let me see if I can get this artwork as close as I can in the middle of our camera view here. And I'm going to try and line up the paper at the bottom here so that it lines up. Just going to overlap the tape just slightly, because we're going to need a 1/2 inch perimeter around here. So with a plan view, if anybody's taken any kind of drafting before, you'll have an idea what we're getting into. In a plan view, we need 4 views of an object. So in animation, in design, we do a number of props. There's characters or environments, and then there's props. So props will be best designed from all the views, and those views can be used in the 3D construction process of building that object absolutely to design. So what we need to do in this first tutorial is I'm just going to go through and give us some measurements so we can draw up the areas of which we're going to be creating our prop in. Okay, so a ruler. And hopefully people are familiar with rulers. I know in the past when I've done measurements, people get a little lost, particularly if it's not just inches. I'm going to be using inches as opposed to centimeters and metric. And hopefully you can find these on your ruler and work it out. We're going to be doing a 1/2 inch, which is, in this case, if we have 1 inch, 2 inch, we're going to look at this major line in between, and that would be a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to mark that down. I'm going to go a 1/2 inch in. And what I'm going to do, and also we're going to go, I'm going to be tricky, 3/4 inch from the top. And I'm going to measure that out here, showing from an inch. 3/4 inches is these secondary long lines here. And you'll see there is 3 of them, dividing that up into 4 sections. So 3/4 of an inch is 1, 2, 3, and that's what we're going to measure down from. Okay, so that's so we can box in our views that we're going to be working on. And let me get those drawn across. Again, in the video, you can be stopping as you go to get those measurements. I have my set square. I've got a 45-degree set square. It's actually adjustable. It's fine if yours just set, and that's good, or even if it's a 60 or 30-degree one. Mine's pretty old and kind of grungy here, so one of the tricks I can show you if you have your masking tape and just trying to keep artwork clean is to fold little pieces, or not even fold them. If you take some pieces of masking tape, put them on the back, and that lifts most of the surface of the set square up off the paper and keeps it from smudging your line work. And you can also use it to put your hand on so you're not getting your hand in your artwork and smudging it. Quite often, any good materials like this, there will be little divots here every so often, and that will hold it up off the paper as well. So what we're going to be doing is using our T-square with a horizontal line, and we use here for our vertical lines and I'm going to be bringing that down. Because of my work surface is on an angle, I cannot bring this all the way to the bottom, so I will switch it the other way and work from the bottom to get the line going that way. So that works as well. So again, this is going to be a 1/2 inch in. This is 3/4 of an inch down. And now we're going to do another line, which is going to be 1 1/4 inches. Hopefully you can see that. There's 1 inch and 1/4. So we're lining here. And I'll draw that straight across. Okay. And we're going to do a 1/2 inch, which is right here. And then we're going to do a whole big 7.5 inches. So we're really using up most of our paper here. So we'll be drawing in a lot of our space here. So I will be drawing across all of our horizontal lines. Well, most of them at this point, just so we can get started. I am going to draw in. We did 1 1/4 from this line to this one. Then we did 1/2 of an inch here. Now when we go this way, we're going to go 1 1/4. So 1 1/4 of this way. And I will draw again that line. And again, I'm going to bring this up so I can turn that around and continue that line down to our bottom here. I am going to do another 1/2 inch. You can see that here. I am going to do a 1/2 inch. Then from there I'm going to do 4 inches, then a 1/2 inch, and then our last will be the 1 1/4. Okay. So let me draw those down. And this will all contain the 4 views for our prop that we're going to draw. Let me get them all started here. Go down. So that's just so we're using up our paper and we're matching our 4 views to each other so that it'll work out nicely. So I'm just going to continue those lines down to the bottom, trying to keep my T-square flat and get my set square doing perfectly vertical lines. Okay, so if we have those, and again, this was what was our length here? 7 1/2 down this way. And this is 1/4, 1/2 inch. This is 4 inches, a 1/2 inch, and then 1 1/4 inch. Okay. So what this is going to be doing, and plan views, and let me put this up here. I'm going to write this in. Plan views. What we're going to be working on is a top view, a side view, a front view, and a back view. So we're going to be working with 2D shapes, but ultimately what it'll give us is the 4 views to which they will all match each other. They'll all be to scale, same dimensions. And then from there we can draw a 3/4 view from any angle. And that will be next week's lesson. But we want to nail down and work out these measurements and getting that sorted out. Okay, so we'll get going here. And hopefully you've got all those measurements. And we'll see the logic behind it as we get going. So the prop I've decided we're going to do is something that hopefully we're familiar with, something pretty common, which is a hammer. And there's all sorts of different hammers and different functions, but primarily a hammer is to hammer in nails. Often it has a claw end which can pull nails, and then you've got the working end, then you've got the handle to work on it. So I'm going to go with a more classic sort of version of wood and a metal head on it. So I'm going to get our side view worked up here, and if I can get everybody to follow along on that, that would be great. Okay, so with a hammer, I'm going to try and get center, and this is where we use the blue. I can fish around for the lines and such that I'm looking for. I want to have a metal block, which is going to be the center of the head of our hammer. From this, and again, I can be using my T-square to kind of get that. I want those to be horizontal lines, but these lines I'm putting in an angle, so it's got more width at the top and less at the bottom. So I'm trying to give this hammer some character. Coming out from the center here, and let me just kind of work that out. So that's pretty much the center of that hammer. Is I'm going to have two lines, top and bottom, kind of coming out to work up and hold on to the impact part of the hammer. And what I think I'll do here is I'll use my T-square set square, kind of draw a line here to where that's going to line up, and then just have that come down. And again, I'll work all this out in blue first, and then I'll do it in pencil, and we can work from there. So this is the impact part where we would hammer a nail in with, and on this back part I'm going to do the claw, which can pull a nail out. So I'm going to have that start somewhere around here and here. Let me see, I think I might bring that down even further. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to bring that down here. This is the good part. This is the creative part of coming up with our prop, so we can use our eraser. There we go. So that's not too bad. I think that kind of works. Now, the other part, we need a handle now. So if we have line coming down. So this is all metal, and we can kind of indicate that with some of our lines here to show a hard surface, and maybe have them go this way on here, and I could create some reflective metallic lines coming across this way here. Give some indication of what sort of surface we've got. Now I can bring a wooden handle down, but ergonomics, I wanted to give some curvature so we can hang on to that hammer. And get it wider as it comes down, doesn't slip out of our hand. So I want it to be functional. And hopefully in that process it'll have some aesthetics to it as well. So I got that. Yeah, I got quite the curve to it here. I could make that maybe a little less severe here. And again, that's where I'm using my blue pencil that I can work those dimensions out. Now, functionality, here's what's important when we're designing a simple prop, is what is the materials and what's the construction like. So analyzing and doing some research is good. So if this is a wooden handle coming up, and it's going up through a hole that is bored through the metal, that is creating the head of the hammer, is the wood would come through, and then you would kind of hammer that down to fray the edge so that this heavy metal won't go flying off the edge of your wooden handle here. And if we look really close at construction, we'll see that they will use a little metal wedge and hammer it into here, and that'll help fray that wood even more so that it doesn't allow the metal head to come off. So I'm using some dotted lines to show that we're looking through that to see that construction there. Okay. So we've done some texture on here to show that's metal. We should put some texture here to show that the handle is wood. And again, I'm roughing it all in blue, and then we'll go over it with lead pencil. Like everything we work on, we should end up lead pencil. There we go. Have a little bit of shadow here. Okay, so I'll go over that with the lead pencil. And all the other can be blue lines because these are just our construction lines. So we always want to go over in lead as to what are our final lines, because this will be a working drawing showing the construction of how we got there. I'm going to get these lines worked in. Freehand these ones being on an angle. I'm going to get that curve happening here. Straight line here. Curve here. And trying to maintain a consistent line here. I'm going to, let me just check this. I want to make sure that this line is vertical. The same with this one and this one. I could be using a straight edge here. And I'll freehand it, see how it works out. There we go. And I'm going to try and be careful as I draw this line of the wooden handle coming out of that wooden block. So again, a prop, anything that appears in an animated movie, everything has to be designed, because we start with a blank piece of paper. So depending on the production, maybe in this film a hammer is featured because, you know, the character works with it throughout the film. So we got to figure out who's the character, what's he building that he needs a hammer with, what period are we working on or what are depicting in our film. So this isn't quite a modern hammer. This is kind of an older version hammer. So I'm using some natural wood for the handle and then metal, so not using any synthetics like plastics and rubber and this sort of thing. So kind of depicting the era. It's kind of pre those kind of materials. Get that going here. Okay. So get this one going there. Okay, so now I've got the outline. Now I can kind of work on the textures here. That's very metal. And then some reflection here on this metal surface. So 2D shapes, getting a two-dimensional side view of this object. There's a curve here, so I might have that taper back in that way. And now I can put in, and again, I'll try and use a thinner line for the texture of the wood here, the wood grain. Just so that we know what material. And again, the animation process, you know, we're designing this, and if it's a 3D film, it'll get built. So they'll definitely use all the views of the design here. And then they know what textures to map onto this afterwards. So that'll be a very convincing hammer, hopefully. Okay. So with that, again, maybe those are a bit darker and thicker than I intended. But we can add some shadow on here to show that that piece here overhangs. So if there's a light source, we can see that there's something there. And also to reinforce that this is a round piece of wood or oval. So to reinforce that shape, we can add, I'm just going to do it in blue. I'm not going to put it in pencil, but this is just to help us indicate that the handle, even though two-dimensional on a side view, that there is some depth, dimension, and shape to it, which will give us some clues when we go to do a 3/4 view of this. Okay. There we go. And the idea of it being round or elliptical, that we have a shaded area, reflective light, and a light source picking up on that side. Okay. So hopefully that helps. So I'll stop this video. I'll pick up when we're going to use all our projection lines to do the top view, the back view, and the front view.